this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Moore. I don't really indulge in a lot of things. I don't go out and just kind of spend my money, particularly for things for myself. But I know that there are people that do those sorts of things. You know, they go to a spa and get manicures and pedicures and get their pores exfoliated or whatever it is that they get done. Mud baths, saunas, and of course the ever popular massage. And listen, I am not averse to a great massage. There's nothing like it, particularly, at the hands of the woman you love, if you know what I mean. And particularly after, you've been beat up by the world, you come home, you get your shoulders rubbed, your feet rubbed. And most of the time, you don't really realize how vulnerable you are. You don't realize that literally you're in the hands of somebody that could alter the course of your life. I bet most of us don't think about massages that way. But today, I'm going to talk about one such massage. A massage that not only wound up in a homicide, but ultimately led to a decapitation. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Brother Dave, it seems like we've been, for some reason, I don't know why, it seems like we've been talking about Las Vegas a lot lately.
Isn't that funny?
So many cases. Yeah, it is. And for those that haven't been to Las Vegas, I enjoy Las Vegas. I like it. I used to like it a lot more when you could go out and you could get a really good meal inexpensively. That was kind of cool, and
right.
It shows. And I like to, as they used to say, I like to drop a few coins in the one-armed bandits every now and then. But, it's not that big of a place when you think about it. It's
Las
not
Vegas?
like, it's not like, some massive city, when you think about places like, LA or New York or Houston,
So it seems
but for
weird
some reason, there's a lot of violence. We just did the thing, and we're still waiting for an update, by the way, to all our friends out there about the cremains. Remember
I know.
that? We've got 300. Was it 300 cremains out there? And there's been other things as well.
The cremains of 300 human beings. Just, you know what? It would have been so much different if those cremains had been all just thrown together and scattered or whatever, and somebody just kind of found. That would be different than the way they were actually found, like a sandcastle on the beach by a kid. FYI, you can go and find that. We did it last week or week before last. Anyway, Joe, this one we're talking about a former porn star who has an ex-husband that she has 2 children with, and he's a real estate agent. She last worked. Okay, Devyn Michaels actually was a real estate agent as well. Last time she had a job, and she had a couple of neat names that she used. Nikki Fairchild, Tracy Tavares. Tracy spelled Tracee. You have to be creative when you're making up your porn name. You can't be like Rick Johnson.
Listen, I don't understand. You're going to enter into, I don't know, dare I say, profession? I guess it is.
Yes.
It's kind of like the world's oldest profession.
Mm-hmm.
Be proud of it, man. Be proud of it. Don't use a nom de guerre. Really just go for it, man. Just use that name that you're given.
I got to tell you, you started off talking about massages, Joe.
Yeah.
And you started talking about by somebody you love. And in this particular case, I was trying to follow along with your line there. And I thought, well, let's just spill the beans, because this is a person by the name of Devyn Michaels who has an ex-husband. And by the way, she's accused of killing him as he's moving back in to live with her and their 2 daughters to raise them as a nuclear family. But she's married to her stepson, her husband's son from a previous marriage.
Wow.
So you have the triangle. you got the Vegas freeway going here. And you've got the ex-husband who is reconciling with his wife for the sake of raising their children. They're 2 girls in a nuclear family, but his wife is married to his son. And when all of this came about, Joe, when it was discovered, now here's the shocking part. You mentioned how if you're getting a massage, how vulnerable you are. That never occurred to me. That really did not ever occur to me until you said that.
Well, hang on. I'm sorry. I got it just made me think there was something that popped up in the news the other day, and I had kind of a flashback, and I did for a while have flashbacks about this case, and that was Jodi Arias. I hate to even say her name, but she had gotten Travis Alexander in a very vulnerable position. Remember, they had engaged in sex all afternoon. They were nude, got him in the shower, taking pictures of him, all that sort of thing. She's got him. Isn't it weird how somebody that is intent on doing something like this can have an individual drop their guard, and kind of, it's kind of like, what is it, Samson and Delilah? The head resting in her lap, stroking his hair and that sort of thing. And out comes the knife, off come his locks. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but
well,
it's one of these things. Yeah.
In this case, the thing is that she's accused of killing him. Now, it's more than just an accusation. And because, Joe, last year, Devyn Michaels actually pleaded guilty to a second-degree murder charge and decided after admitting everything and talking that she didn't want to go through with that. So she changed her plea to not guilty and took it to trial after already having been guaranteed a sentence of less than 15 years. And then she took it back to court. So that's why they're in trial. That's actually why we've covered this story. I say we, in the other shows that we do, this story has popped up a couple of times because of that. She pled it down. It was all over, and now it's back. It just won't go away. But in this particular case, how did you do it? Devyn, how did you kill your husband? I was giving him a massage, and I don't know what happened. I don't remember hitting him. I don't remember, that's how she started, Joe. Well, we've got a body here. A body. And by the way, I got to ask you about this, Joe. The police found Jonathan Willett deceased with chemicals poured over his body and no head. Now, his body was discovered by his mom. If you want to get even weirder, we already have the husband and the wife and the stepson who's married, and he's the ex-husband, and the one in the middle is on the right, and the one on the top is an all-night DJ, and the one on his rear got drafted. I'm not really sure where we are in a Johnny Cash song, but what happened, Joe?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'd love to drift back to this idea of the chemicals that when, the police first arrived, and this is in the wake of Mama finding him. Can you imagine how horrible this is? Absolutely horrible. I got to tell you, I've actually seen the photo.
Oh, really?
I've seen the photo of his body. Yeah.
No.
I'd covered it on, I'm not going to say which one, but I've covered it on a couple of platforms, and I had access to the image. And obviously this body is without a head. And I could make out a few details, but one of the things that really stood out to me, brother, was the fact that he had these kind of, on the surface of his body, he had these kind of black, crusty looking spots. Okay. Like where your chest would be. All right. And, when the EMTs arrived at the scene, and there's actually, this is kind of powerful. There's actually cop video,
body cam,
like the body cam. And you can see one of the EMTs standing at the bed, and he's got his hand over his face like this. And I'm acting like I'm on television with you guys right now, but hand over the nose and the mouth. And it's not, I mean, EMTs see everything, they're not like a cop, EMTs see things that will haunt your nightmares. All right. And generally it's with the living. So it's not like he's in shock. It's that the air was noxious in this environment. It turns out that both bleach and ammonia were mixed, and they were poured over his body. And they actually stated that there was smoke or fume. Well, smoke is the way they described it, rising up from the body. So you're talking about, you're in an environment with a noxious gas. Bleach is very, very dangerous stuff, particularly when mixed with ammonia. And they're both, and this happens a lot because people will try to really, I'm doing air quotes, really clean an area. You're going to want your bleach, and those are common things that are used to clean houses with. Well, you create a form of, chlorine gas. And I've actually, Dave, I've actually been in the midst of a spill in a morgue one time where this happened. And it wasn't ammonia. It was actually a form of formaldehyde that we have, was called formalin. We use it to preserve organs with. And there was bleach that was intermixed in this stuff, and it created, I couldn't breathe in this environment. It was burning my throat. So in an attempt to clean up the scene, because the scene is markedly bloody, as you can imagine, she's trying to apply this mixture, apparently, either to clean the body or eradicate any evidence that something has happened here. And you've got these individuals at the scene, and this gives you an idea. Anytime you have an EMS, a police, firefighter, whomever walk onto a scene, you never know what you're going to walk into, because you're literally walking into the midst of somebody else's crazy. Just keep that in mind. You're talking about a lady who, by her own admission, has committed a murder and has, in fact, removed the head of the man that is the father of her children, Dave. So I've wondered about I hope that no one was permanently injured. I'm sure that some of them had
other than the guy without the head. Yeah,
exactly. The guy that didn't survive her.
Wow.
But, you've got the mom that's in there, and you've got all these public servants that are walking through this area. The thing about that gas, Dave, is that it will literally burn the mucoid lining of your throat, your airway. And if it gets into your lungs, it really create a problem. So it gives you the idea, and we see this a lot with these kind of cases where people get in midstream and they're doing something horrible like this, and they don't know what they're doing. But what we do know is that confusion and evil rules the day. Brother Dave, I didn't know if I was going to tell you about the image, but I felt like I needed to just let you know that I had seen it. And it appears to me, because the image was kind of, have you seen these images that are sent to you every now and then, and they're like second and kind of third generation images? They're kind of digitized. It's hard to fully appreciate.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of detail. It's not like the stuff that we take at autopsy or at crime scenes where you've got this uber clarity with it. But I could have sworn that I could see a portion of his spine. When you're looking literally at the point where his head was separated from his body. And it's kind of fascinating. I'm actually teaching a course right now at Jack State in clandestine graves, and we're literally in the last week of class right now. I'm so thankful. We're literally it's been a long semester, and we're doing one of our favorite topics right now. We're talking about dismemberment and all these sorts of things, and what people do with bodies, and how they deposit them. And you see this many times kind of acted out or portrayed where people will use whatever tools are at their disposal. And the evidence is left behind. Many times the evidence is left behind in the form of like bone dust or, tissue. And in this case, Dave, you would not believe how much blood was left behind, because his body, just so you know, if folks at home will imagine, you're laying on a bed with your shoulder blades touching the mattress, okay? And the mattress is kind of bare beneath you. And your head, if in this case, if this gentleman still had his head, would be hanging off of the side of the bed. So it's like in a position, and please remind me to tell our friends about the position itself, because it's something we actually use at autopsy. His head is laying off the bed, and Dave, the mattress itself is just like super saturated in blood. And then you can see the carpeted surface beneath it. It's super saturated. And folks will ask us many times, well, how much blood was there? The problem, yeah, all of it. Thank you. The problem is that you can't measure that. You can't measure it because it's like, how would you measure the volume of blood in a mattress? Okay, because it's literally soaked through. You could never extricate it from there and then put it in a vial. And one of the terms, and this is actually what wound up being his cause of death, Dave, it's nonspecific homicidal violence. Mm-hmm. You know that there's been a homicide committed here. Obviously, you've got a headless body. There's a copious amount of blood. And here's what most of the time pathologists will say. They will say that the amount of blood that you can see at the scene is actually incompatible with life.
Right.
And it's because it's super saturated. And as you get down to the carpet, you look at the carpet there. As we know, if you have carpeted floors, unless you really skimped and didn't spend your money, you're going to have a carpet pad beneath the actual carpet. So it's literally going to soak through all those levels. It would be an impossible feat to measure all of that volume of blood that came out of this guy's body.
As you are saying that, I'm thinking about this poor guy's mom, the victim here, Jonathan Willett. And think about, this is somebody who is the mother of two of your children that is accused of doing this, Devyn Michaels. Yep. Now, I want to back up to the morning of August 7th at about 8:40 in the morning. The police in Henderson, Nevada, get a call from a woman stating she found her son, Jonathan Willett, in his bed, and she believed that he was dead. Now, the condition of the body. You know what she saw, but she could not bring herself to say what she actually saw. So I believe he's dead. Now, officers arrive, and I pulled the police report because I wanted to see how they described it. And you know what, Joe?
Yeah.
They discovered that his head had been severed from his body and was not in the room. They also smelled those chemicals, bleach and ammonia, and in the police report says they believed those chemicals had been applied to the body because smoke was rising from the body.
Yeah.
Now, the body's wrapped in plastic or cloth and in bed. And I'm thinking of this poor mother. Now, she's got this body of her son without a head.
Yeah.
And she has to call for help. And she then describes it, because now she's got to sit down with cops because it's her house. And she has to describe what's been happening here. Because, hey, man, you called us. You're the finder. We're looking at you first.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when she starts describing Mr. Jonathan Willett's ex-wife, the mother of his two daughters, and that the last time she saw her son was at 10 o'clock the night before. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, she hears Devyn washing dishes in the kitchen. So she goes and says, hey, what's going on? Just washing dishes. She goes, oh, yeah. I put Jonathan to bed. He's drunk. we're going to leave early in the morning. Don't worry about us. We got to register the girls for school. And so mom's like, okay. Goes back at 3 o'clock in the morning. She hears dogs barking. It's like, what the heck? But she doesn't go check on it because, goes back to sleep. And it's then at 8:40 when she finally goes down and finds the body. So we kind of have a timetable of when it probably happened, say 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., basically in that time period. Otherwise, you've got Devyn Michaels washing her hands with the dishes, assuming she's washing blood, because as you have explained on many occasions, trying to dismember a body is a big undertaking. And in this case, she told police she's giving him a massage and hits him with a candlestick type object. Now, Joe, how quickly, if you're laying there, and I'm assuming laying face down on a table, bed, whatever.
Right.
And you're getting a massage, you're kind of relaxed, your guard is down, and then you get hit on the head. How many times is your melon going to get whacked before you're really not able to respond physically?
That's going to be very much dependent upon, first off, the force that's applied by the subject that's wielding the instrument. Also, the weight of the instrument. How much force can they deliver? And of course, that force is going to be translated into the object flying through the air. And then if it's like if you I don't know, do you remember Pier 1? Pier 1 shops. If you go in like an old Pier 1 shop, and do you remember they used to have all the stuff from they'd have stuff from India and the Far East, all over. And I always felt like it was probably made in Hoboken, New Jersey or something. It really wasn't from those locations. Right. Anyway, they've got candlesticks, right? Or candle holders. How heavy could one of those things be? So my thought is, unless it's something that weighed, like the weight would have to be measured in pounds as opposed to ounces, like a baseball bat, it would have to have significant weight for it to be a single strike. I think that she would have had to have hit him probably multiple times. Here's another interesting thing about blunt force trauma, Dave, is that let's just say, for instance, you have some weirdo kind of candle holder or something like this that's got these like real prominent edges to it. Well, now that structure is now part of it goes to the lethality of this thing. So if it's got like a protuberance on the side of it and it's got weight behind it, and that protuberance is being driven down like a point, like a metal point, and you can penetrate the cranial vault with it, one strike might do it, but it's hard to imagine that a single strike is going to kill this guy, even if he's laid out. So my question is, and I think that this is one of the big mysteries surrounding this, Dave, first off, they don't have a weapon, and they ain't got a head. So how are you going to arrive at any kind of scientific conclusion, about what actually happened or how it actually went down? Because, one of the things that we do in the morgue, Dave, is to try to understand the dynamics of the event that led up, the fatal event, how energy is transferred from, say, for instance, either a firearm into the body of a victim that's shot, or from the hand and the arm of the perpetrator that's wielding the instrument, or the shape of the instrument like a knife. You have to try to understand all of that to kind of get an idea of how many strikes did it take, and also how long did they live? Because dependent upon the degree of the injury itself, you can get an idea. Well, what was damaged within the skull? What areas of the brain were impacted? And were there any specific vessels that were disrupted? And also, I mentioned just a moment ago, and I think this is kind of fascinating, the amount of blood that you have there. How much of that blood was actually from the event of him being struck, or how much of it was the postmortem flow relative to his head being removed from his shoulders. When I saw this guy's body, the first thing I thought about is in the morgue, one of the things that we do, and I don't know if folks are aware of this, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, did you know that we block the bodies? And what that means is that there is a rubber, we call it a block, but it's there is a rubber device that we use, and it's got 4 points on it, and it's real heavy rubber. And we can and it's got two aspects to it. You can flip it over and put it under the neck, and it holds the neck in place so that we can literally open the head. You can flip it over, and it's got these four points that look like the legs of a table. And you can stand it up on the little legs and then put it directly beneath the shoulder blades, and it does what's called hyperextends the body. So when you hyperextend the body and you make that initial incision into the chest literally opens up so that you can see everything. You can see all of the viscera, the organ groups, everything. You can fully appreciate it. I got to tell you, when I was looking at his body, she had actually, in her own way, hyperextended his body off the edge of that bed so she could get access to his neck, Dave.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So that she could get access to his neck, because that, if you think about with your head, and everybody's done it at some point in time, with your head laying off the back, off the side of the bed, your neck kind of bulges up like this, and your shoulders kind of contract a bit. And so it literally opens up this area on the anterior or the front of the neck so that you can get access to that area if you want to use a sharp instrument on it. And somehow, some way, she thought that this was the best way to do it. I got to tell you, if I didn't have a block like I have in the morgue and I was interested in trying to remove somebody's head, I don't know, man. That might be the road I was going to go down. And it's like instinctively she knew how to do that. Dave, back a few years ago, I think it was actually 2018, I actually covered this trial live on air. I was on Law and Crime Network. And I don't know if you remember Judge Scandarito. He had been a judge, I think it was in Michigan, and he had moved to Florida. And he was down there and kept company with his son, who also lived down there. The son was an attorney, had a drug problem. Turns out that this elderly judge had a drug problem as well, if you can imagine this. And anyway, story went that they thought the son had killed the dad, but what had happened was apparently the judge, this elderly judge, had a cardiac arrest that was probably brought on by, of all things, Dave, cocaine usage. So he's doing blow with his son. And the son panics, all right? He's got the drug. I think he probably had the drug paranoia thing going on. Decides to get out, go to the shed and get some sharp instruments, cut dad's head off. And they've still, to this very day, they still have yet to have found this father's head. Wow. And there was like a retention. You know how in Florida they have all these retention ponds, like apartment complexes and all that stuff? Yeah. And it seemed to me his body was found, and they've still, to this day, they've never found his head. The thing about it is there's all kinds of creepy crawlies in those retention ponds down in Florida. There's no telling where the guy's head actually wound up. But the son was not found guilty of a homicide, but he was found guilty of, abusing a corpse. Yeah. Wow. But with this case, we've got a bona fide homicide here, Dave, and still to this day, we have a missing head.
Right. We got somebody who admitted doing it, saying she hit him over the head. Now, there was something kind of telling in her statement to police. She said, that she hit him with a candlestick-like object. And that told me it was a heavy object. I don't know why that's what I thought, but, something that long, heavy, and hit him. And she said that she hit him and his arms stopped moving.
Right.
And I started thinking, well, okay, she hit him because that's a pretty dramatic thing. He's not struggling. He's not like, she didn't hit him and he struggled. She didn't hit him a little bit and he fought back. She hit him and his arms stopped moving. Is there a place you can hit somebody on the head that would bring them right away like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Particularly, okay, let's just say, and this is just my opinion, there's a reason, like when you have these, kind of, you think about people that are publicly executed, right? Or not publicly, when you have like mass executions and they shoot people in the back of the head, or,
right.
or like, the scene, leave the gun, take the cannolis, in Godfather, shot in the back of the head, right? That was Paulie. Was that Paulie? I think it was Paulie that was shot.
Yeah, Paulie was shot.
Yeah, Paulie was shot. And so there's a reason, because back there in that particular posterior region of the brain, you're controlling motor functions back there. And so I would say that, I think that would be possible, but it's fascinating, the statement that she would make that he stopped moving his arms. So why was he moving his arms in the beginning? Was she actually in a struggle with him and she grabs this thing and brains him with it? By the way, I love the fact that you use that term. I hadn't heard that term in years. And she brains him with that. And you're right. His arms are not going to move him. The question is that, did she kill him with that blow, or did she just knock him unconscious? Mm-hmm. And this is something else. I've never had an opportunity to, kind of tell people this on one of these episodes. Have you ever seen in the old pictures, somebody will take a pistol in some kind of movie, and they like walk up behind somebody and strike somebody in the back of the head, and they automatically drop? It's like a theater device,
Yeah.
It generally doesn't work that way. There's an awareness you've been struck. It's like, God, what'd you do, man?
Mm-hmm.
Like that. And I guess there are those times, particularly if you've got the right instrument, you could hit somebody hard enough that you would kill them instantly. The lion's share of people that you hit in the head are going to be aware that they've been hit, and they're going to start to fight. And I really wonder if that's might be what happened here. But I keep going back to this, Dave. We've covered so many dismemberment cases. I don't think you and I have worked one or covered one where someone has taken the head and they exit stage left, with the head, and it's gone. I really tried to think this through, because what they're saying about this case is they don't have an instrument. That's what she said she used. And we don't have a head.
Right.
So
there's some geography to consider too, Joe. Because, see, he was living at home with his mom, Jonathan Willett was.
Yeah.
His wife, Devyn, was living with their two daughters and her husband, her ex-husband's son, her stepson. Okay. Now they're living together. She tells police it's an insurance thing. We're not really married, like in love married. It's an insurance thing. It's the only reason. And of course, they saw through that pretty quickly. That broke down. So she's having a sexual affair with her stepson, which, by the way, began when she was living as husband and wife, with having two children with her husband, the father of her boyfriend. She's doing both of them at the same time, dad and her stepson. Now, what happened is this. Devyn and Jonathan, they broke up. Devyn and her stepson moved in together, and Devyn and Jonathan decided to live back together as husband and wife and raise their children together. But her stepson, her ex-husband's son, He's not happy about that because he and his dad are not on great terms. And so...
Really? I can't imagine.
I know. It's nuts. And I want to be very careful here because when you look at a case like this, there are so many horrible. I think about the mom finding her son's body. I think about that. I think about these two daughters now who have to grow up knowing that our mom killed our dad and she was in a relationship with our brother, half brother.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So anyway, through all of that, they never found the head. But what happened is while the police are talking to her, they hook her up to Polygraph because they were like, why were you there at the house? Where were you headed? And, Jonathan was going to move back into the home she shared with his son and their daughters. And she decided she didn't want to kill him. She just wanted to hurt him enough to go in the hospital to buy her a few extra days to try to get things smoothed over at home with her boyfriend or his son so they could all live together. That was her plan. Just get him in the hospital so he's out of my way for a little while because he was planning on moving into their house together right then. And it was too fast. She didn't want that. So they couldn't find his head. They hook her up to Polygraph. They're asking her all these questions. And it's during one of these questions that they actually see the needles jump. Okay. Now, when they're asking you questions on a polygraph and you have a significant reaction, they know something's up. Yeah. I'm not saying polygraph are 100% accurate, but they're probably 90% accurate. And when you have a severe reaction, they know they're onto something. And the reason they were onto something is they found Jonathan Willett, the dead man with no head, his wallet, keys, Social Security card, and his phone with his blood on it at Devyn Michaels' home. And her significant reaction was when they asked her if she participated in the death of Jonathan Willett. And there was something that happened during one of her interviews with police, Joe. During that first interview, they asked her what happened. And she said, well, there's this trash truck that was backing up and it just picked up trash. You know how the beeping noise when the trash truck's backing up? Beep, beep, beep. And she looks at the truck out the window and goes, yeah, Jonathan went bye-bye. She said that to the police as the trash truck. So they figured she put her head in the trash can, put his head in the trash can, and then threw it away.
Yeah, I think that she actually spirited the head out of the house like in a basket or something. Yeah. And essentially, like you said, dumps the head into a trash receptacle. And you know that the truck is always, it's like magic. The truck is always going to come by and pick up anything. And here's the problem. They probably know where the head is, but that head wound up in a landfill. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.